What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review a 2008 mixtape by Rick Ross. Basically this product is called Po Boy or Popo, and it came out in the summer of 2008. So the thing about this particular product here is this is pretty much like a relative follow-up to Trilla from like the spring or so of 2008 as far as this pitch can happen. But the thing about that particular album is just the fact that back in the day I did not realize as many products that Rick Ross put out. Even Wikipedia to this day does not full-bound know much about these Rick Ross products between like 2006 to 2010. Wikipedia considers Rick Ross's first mixtape to be the Albert Anastasia EP from the spring of 2010, but the actual pitch behind it was I figured I knew enough to be able to say I remember from Dat Piff back in the day that Rick Ross did do at least the MIAO mixtape from early 2006, which was actually pretty much in certain senses seen as like his debut project, but he did have a series of mixtapes 2007, 2008. I found the Trilla mixtape, and this is one. I kind of question what happened with Rick Ross between 2008 when he dropped Trilla to about April or so 2009 when he dropped Deeper Than Rap, and then the Triple C's era as far as this pitch can happen, then eventually the Teflon Don era. But there's just not a ton of real knowledge is full bound, especially nowadays with the mixtapes kind of being in more question with that particular affair. But it's just a concept. This is a real secret type project, not super ton of real commerce or real knowledge about this particular product here. It does have some good stuff on here, but it's just kind of the concept. It just doesn't have as much commonplace kind of trajectory really about it in terms of folks really having much critique about it. So it's just within the pitch that this is real some stuff that Rick Ross was working on after Trilla, but not quite wasn't quite yet in like the Deeper Than Rap era, I'd have to say. Still feels more of like Trilla leftovers and just some things that he kind of had in like table scraps, like the format of what was kind of the Trilla era when he was probably touring with that particular album as far as those pitches kind of happened. But yeah, Rick Ross in like August of 2008, November 2008 was really kind of a quieter era for him just because Trilla basically made it to about the late spring, summer of 2008 as far as the promotion of it kind of went. There was a single called This Is the Life, but that was the last trace of Rick Ross. It was about June, July of 2008, but the pitch behind it, there was some extra type stuff in there. It's kind of within the format of just kind of a questionable type era just because there were kind of some sparse and more dry months as far as this pitch can happen, but it's just some excellent type fare. This is a classic here, just would have to say, just within the concept, really like the appeal behind this particular one. This has a lot of good, but the thing about this particular mixtape to know, this has 23 songs on here, but most of these songs on this product are pretty much less than 2 minutes. Rick Ross does not really give folks on this particular mixtape project like the actual full songs like he did on MIAO and Trilla the mixtape, some of those type ones. It's mostly just snippets. You get like a Rick Ross verse, the hook, whether it's Akon or Sean Garrett or whichever R&B singer, folks like that. There are some pretty good hooks on here within the pitch behind it. Actually, it's pretty commercial ready. There's another good trace of that. This kind of feels like Trilla 2.0 or Trilla 1.5 just within the pitch because it just has that same type flavor as Trilla, just within the concept of like some folks that didn't make that album. Like if you'll notice that Akon was not really on the Trilla album, but he probably should have been just because there was at least another song that Akon did around that time that was on Trilla the mixtape. But it's just kind of the fair, some of those type ones, just circa 2008. So it's just a good type flair because Rick Ross kind of was in his prime in 2008 as well. He had a relative prime within those particular years, so it's just some good type pitch to kind of get some of this here. But yeah, like I was saying, there's not really like full bound songs. I mean, there's a couple of them on here. Like the Sean Garrett song 6 in the Morning feels like at least a relative kind of quick song that has mostly complete format. Pedal to the Floor is one that's complete. And like number one on the charts, which has triple C's on there, is some complete ones. But for the most part, most of these are just quickies and just afterthoughts. Not so much full bound afterthoughts, but just the song. There's probably songs that Rick Ross was working on that just kind of was in the songs that Rick Ross was working on. That was just kind of in the maybe songs that Rick Ross was working on that maybe it'll come out, maybe it won't, just within the pitches behind him. But it's just within the fair. I'm glad that some of these songs did surface, but I would have liked to have heard them in like their full bound kind of complete format. Nowadays, it seems less likely just because of the tone, but it's still the excellent type fair to kind of get the songs for what they are on here. So yeah, just being able to say, so basically, just to be able to talk about the 23 songs on this project. So out of 23 songs on here, I wound up recommending 19. So basically, minus like there's a Po Boy or Popo intro, which is not really a song, so that narrows it down to 22 songs. So out of 22 songs in here, once again, wound up recommending 19. So this mixtape is going to get a 10 out of 10. So basically, the only three songs I don't recommend would just be Activate, I'm the Shit, and Spotlight Remix. So to talk about those, basically Activate just had a real clumsy type chorus. It was just not delivered upon real well as to what it particularly needed to be. I just feel like the chick on the song just didn't really nail that particular vibe type mode. This felt a little bit more grating than it needed to be. I mean, it felt like the song was a little bit more of like a venue type hop, but it just was kind of a dicey type one, just in terms of like the catchiness of it. Spotlight, the Jennifer Hudson song, had some good type appeal, but it was just a different type aspect for it. Just kind of felt like a more kind of Mary J. Blige-esque kind of just traffic commerce and like this big city pizzazz about it, but it just didn't really nail the vibe within the same pitch behind it. It just felt like, I mean, it has like the relative appeal of just nailing like a more kind of traditional kind of 90s R&B type sound, but just within the pitch it just didn't have quite as much melding in terms of like the term behind it. I mean, it's here and there. I feel like this is one that at least has some degree of like ability to kind of have within it, but just this question like the frequency of how often I'd listen to it within the pitch. And then like I'm the Shit is just kind of that one was just a poor type production on there. Just didn't really like the appeal of that particular one as far as those fairs kind of went. It's the basic kind of vanilla in between type day that just didn't have much pizzazz about it as far as those pitches kind of happened. It was just probably one of the more awkward ones on here as far as those pitches kind of go. But yeah, basically this mixtape is a 10 out of 10. And just to say, there's only really 3 songs. There's really only 2 songs on, or there's about 5 songs on here that I'm not going to talk about just because these are remixes and songs that are on other projects. Like 2 songs on here, Here I Am, is on Trilla, which was being promoted as a single around this particular time. That song, Here I Am, and then This Is the Life, are the 2 summer 2008 singles from Trilla. So This Is the Life is not on this project, but Here I Am is, and it's just the same song as on Trilla, so I'm not going to talk about that one. I'm a G is just a leftover from Rick Ross's Port of Miami, which is strange that that particular song is on this album just within pitch. I think it's probably just the concept of just crusting up the fact that, you know, Rick Ross had a song with Lil Wayne back in 2006. I don't just kind of felt like a strange one to kind of throw on here, considering that that one's pretty much 2 years old, but it's just within pitch of just saying that's a nice song, but just I've already, you know, it's off Port of Miami. And then there's some remixes, kind of Lil Wayne style, where Rick Ross freestyles to some popular songs from 2007, 2008. So those 3 songs would be Life of the Party from Snoop Dogg's 2008 album, In the Air from Flo Rida's 2008 album, and then Foolish from Shawty Lowe's 2008 album. All these are pretty good. Rick Ross does a pretty good job with these particular type ones. Good type flair to have those extra spices, just some good nice ones on there, just in the pitch behind it. Yeah, we'll basically get to some of these. So yeah, there's just some good nice ones on here, like Curtain Calls, like a bleary kind of ladies night pizzazz, kind of get within that tone. Just Curtain Calls, like a bleary kind of ladies night pizzazz, kind of get as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just Bay Out on the night, it's kind of taking Bay out on the snazzy night town as far as those pitch kind of happen with it. Just grabbing expensive drinks, some lavish outs as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just some real nice ones here, just in the pitch behind it. So most of these songs on here are going to be pretty snappy quickies just within the pitch behind them. It's just within a tone and just getting a real nice kind of promo type night, just date night within those particular type of appeals. That just like some snazziness just within the appeal behind it. Another one that's pretty similar to Like That is I'm Like That. It's like a vintage kind of 2000s loud pack, I'd have to say. Just exotic kind of venue heat to kind of get here. Just smoke loud, definitely some noisy kind of get crunk. I feel like it's a quick song, but it slams pretty good. This probably has one of the more litty and just overall it's kind of glitzy type beats on this particular product. Probably apart from Curtain Call, is one of the most pizzazz type ones to go for. But another one that's pretty much within that tone with some of that glitzy type pizzazz, which I like some of these songs on here within the pitch. Definitely some of this night outing type fare. It's a pretty actual kind of project that just kind of has like some TGIF type fare and pitches like that. Some good typeness to kind of have like some social pizzazz, which Trilla didn't have like a super ton of those. I mean, it had songs like Billionaire and This Is the Life and pitches like that, and Speed in some of those type of ones, but just within pitch and The Boss, some of those type of ones. But I would have to say that this definitely has some festiness, and these are some secret Rick Ross songs. I would probably say if this project had like these particular songs that you get on here that I am recommending full bound, as this record is a 10 out of 10, if these would have been like full bound, like 3.5 minute, 4 minute songs like they probably should have been, this probably would have been one of Rick Ross's overall best product. This is just pretty much like damn near has the ability to be like a career highlight for Rick Ross. It's just kind of within the pitch that these are just quickies on here. This is kind of the after effect of just saying that these are good, but you just have to keep in mind that most of these songs are just like a minute 15 seconds, minute 35 seconds, some of those type fairs. You get the one verse and then the hook, and then that's basically what you get here. They're just kind of appetizers, but that's just kind of thing. But so this being, I'll say 6 in the mornings, and I highlighted one within that sense, like I was saying, it's like a litty kind of town surfing in like a Drury sense, I'd had to say here, just feeling nice. Some of that, I mean, blitz as hell, kind of torch, just like a venue pounder kind of get, just a get comfy kind of toke up type song kind of have within that pitch behind it. It's a real nice song for ladies type fare within the pitch behind it. There's some more ones. This once again goes pretty well with Curtain Call as far as those pitch can happen. Just a nice type of appeal. 6 in the morning has Sean Garrett on here, and like I was saying, like the thing about this project is just the fact that it does not really, as full bound, kind of designate the guests on here. There's just going to be some ones, like there's a song that has triple C's on here, which is like #1 on the charts, but it doesn't denote that in terms of like Rate Your Music or places like that. 6 in the Morning has Sean Garrett, like I was saying. Jennifer Hudson's on here. Akon is on here, which is kind of secret within the fashion behind it. There's like some other ones on here I don't remember as full bound just to say, but there are some like singers on here, some of those type fairs. Like I want to say that there's one on Dope Boy's Dream, so there's just some pitches like that that kind of have like some good pizzazz. It's a little bit more actual glitzy than Trilla was, just within the pitch behind it, just within the tone. It just has that 2008 flavor, just like a glitzy Rick Ross. Just a little bit, the sheen is just edged up a bit, but these are just snappier. So. But just being able to say, speaking of Dope Boy's Dream, that's like a nighttime kind of rumination, kind of get here, just some woozy kind of smoke and like after hours. Definitely some good woozy smokage and like the after hours, I'd have to say here, just some hotel reflect, kind of get within that tone, just a basic kind of quiet dinner to kind of have, just basic kind of kickback, just hotel room pitches like that, just having dinner on the bed, some of those type pitches, as far as that fare kind of happens with it, just spaghetti pitches, some of that type fare, just basic kind of wine with a bucket of ice, some of those type fares, as far as those pitches kind of happen, just within the tone behind it, incense, some of that type good type fare within the pitch, but it's just some good type tones. Number one on the charts is a pretty appealing type one. It's like a contemplative kind of late day grind. Number one on the charts is like a contemplative kind of late day grind to kind of get here. Just has like the feeling like hustling by Rick Ross type vibes on this particular song, and like a brooding sense that I'd say it's like a new taste for Rick Ross. Yeah, number one on the charts is just a new taste for Rick Ross as far as this pitch kind of happened. Just a good aspect of like some summer evening kind of glaze here. Just kind of a bustle type song, just similar to Hustling, like I was saying, just without the mammoth kind of hook, just within the taste behind it. But it's just a good aspect kind of has for some of those type of ones. Just kind of have some push, just in like evening type fare, just the after effects of like probably like a summer evening, some of that type pitch, just within the concept, but still finish them last moment task. Just probably another 45 75 more minutes of grind as far as those pitches can happen, just in the tone behind it. It's a good type of appeal for that, but it just feels a little bit more brooding. It's just a different taste for Rick Ross, like I was saying, just different aspect there. Heavy Artillery is a nice one. This takes it back to like the MIAO mixtape days in Port of Miami. Heavy Artillery feels like a DJ Khaled 2006 era Port of Miami and MIAO mixtape type feels within the pitch behind it. This just feels like a familiar kind of Don Cannon. This particular song feels like a familiar kind of Don Cannon era mixtape soul to kind of get within that pitch. Just basic on the grind, kind of evening bustle. It has to say about this one, just some good push to kind of have within that. So this feels like something Lil Wayne would have done 2006, Carter 2 era, like Father, like Son era, some of those type pitches, DJ Khaled type fare, folks like that, just in the fare behind this. Real feels like something produced by like it feels like that standard kind of, you know, vintage kind of mixtape soul within that pitch. It's good type tone for that. Another one that sounds, there's some good vibes on here that do kind of bring it back to Port of Miami. I like the fact that Rick Ross kind of reflects on Port of Miami a little bit on here. It's just some good type pitches for that. I'd probably say Black Flag is one of those type ones. This reminds of like 2007 Ross. I had to say within that pitch, songs like "I'ma Do Me" by Rocco, even though "I'ma Do Me" is not by Rick Ross. I want to say he might have been on the remix, but just some of that type flavor. Early Trilla days from like the late 2007 Trilla mixtape type fare pitches like that. Just some Cool and Dre type fares as far as those pitches gonna happen. It's just good for some Miami speedings. That I'd say about this one. Just kind of the cruise around, like not as much like yacht type music and boat speeding like Miami Vice type style, but just within the pitch of just cruising through Miami within the pitch. Some of those type ones that Blood Raw is pretty good at. Some of those type fares that just typical kind of speed arounds and like Miami type fares, and then pitch behind it, just Pink Skies pitches like that. Black Flag has some of that type fare. Another one that kind of does that would be I'm Yo Hustla. Yeah, this feels like Dre from Cool and Dre should have showed up on like a hook for Black Flag as far as those pitches can happen, but it's the same kind of pitch with I'm Yo Hustla. It's like a throwback kind of Miami Fried City commerce to kind of give here. Kind of get here within those pitches. Just gives more recent Port of Miami vibes, I would have to say. So it's just the concept of getting Port of Miami from 2006, but then just getting a rendition of it like 2 years later as far as those pitches can happen. Just roll songs like some real nice night grit to kind of get within that tone. So it's just some of these type ones. I like the fact that Rick Ross is still kind of on his hustling type vibes within the pitch behind it, where there's still some of that standard hustlers makeshift within the tradition behind it, but just a little bit more aspect to this without like the mammoth hook. So just, I mean, this project definitely does have some gems on here within the pitch, but in terms of like something that just would be kind of like, you know, Chevy Riding High or Hustlin' or some of those singles that were from like those days. I forget like the single off of Rick Ross's Triple C's mixtape from the summer of 2007, but some of those type ones just in the pitch behind like those typical kind of buzz songs within those pitches. But I feel like, I mean, it's not so much a weakness to this product that these songs are quick. It's just kind of within the fare that you just don't get the exploit of these being able to be larger. Maybe Rick Ross just wanted to kind of clip this mixtape's wings just because of the concept that he had so much going on within the pitch. But this is some good appetite just like I was saying, but there are some good gems on here that do have some of that relative buzz type of appeal. There's some ones that take it back to Port of Miami. Another one that's pretty similar to that would be Pedal to the Floor. Now, this is one that's actually, for the most part, like a more almost full bound kind of completed song. Still a relatively quick one, but it has the appeal behind it. It's like a throwback to like mid 2000s, the Runners type, club type gem, kind of get within that pitch. It's a basic kind of night ambience, I'd have to say here, and just some good Miami commute and like the night type shift as far as those pitches kind of happen. So basically like a song like Hustlin' or Push It to the Limit, just in a more kind of just like 7 o'clock p.m. kind of evening dredge, just with the pitch behind it. Just kind of a concept or something that you could probably be in like a typical venue, places that would have played Hustlin' and Push It to the Limit, some of those type songs, and like the Akon song, like Cross That Line, some of those type pitches from 2006, 2007 type fare, just in the aspect behind it, just in more melded type. This is more of just like background type music, but works for the appeal of what it is. It's not like to say background music in terms of quality, but just the pitch of just getting some extra kind of white noise for like one that has like the ability to kind of have like that venue kind of display, but just within the concept just may not have as much distinguishedness about it. So there's some ones. On the Run with Akon is a nice one. It's like a nice secret kind of Ross and Akon from like the Trilla era, I'd had to say here. Just some in-between moments, and like Vanilla Traverse, I'd had to say. Vanilla Traverse Day to kind of get here. It's just a real quick type fare to kind of get within that. Yeah, this is a pretty summery type product, just to be able to get this real lush and lavish type appeals. It's the aspects behind it. Just some summer frolic to kind of get here. On the Run is definitely one of those type ones. It's good type Akon type tune. Just typical like Cross That Line, and We Taking Over, some of those type pitches. The same sort of hop within that. Just vintage kind of Rick Ross Akon team up. There's some more summer frolic type ones on here, like Look Like Money remix. It's like a simple kind of mixtape money hop tune to kind of get within that pitch. This reminds of like Lil Wayne from 2000. Look Like Money remix reminds of like a Lil Wayne 2007 leftover. I'd have to say it's just a pretty vanilla hit to kind of get within that pitch behind it. Another one that's pretty similar to that type fare would be Don't Get Fucked Up. It's like a sunny kind of summer afternoon hop to kind of get here. Just some neighborhood, and it's like some neighborhood and commerce outings to kind of get within that pitch, and just some fast errands. So this particular song, Don't Get Fucked Up, is less than 50 seconds just within the pitch behind it. Actually less than 45 seconds. So it's just within the tone, just a real quick in-between type moment. Just maybe being at a red light and just thinking real quick, just trying to figure out what you're going to do, check your phone, something like that, just in the tone. Just real nice, summery, just embrace sunlight, sunshine, some of that type fare within the pitch behind it. So, and then Nothing Matters is a nice one. This is another one that's less than 50 seconds, I'd have to say. It's another one that's less than 50 seconds, I'd have to say. It's like some basic ambience in like a hotel room or lobby as far as those pitch can happen. Just situate, grab a snack, something like that, check your phone as far as those pitch can happen. Just real nice quickie to kind of get here. It's really this is like the start of some of those more graceful and kind of debonair type moments that Rick Ross definitely got to on like Deeper Than Raps. Just a good pitch behind that. Just kind of going from like the summer, it's kind of going from like the summer glitz and the seedy glitz as far as those pitch can happen with Miami, with Port of Miami and Trilla type fare, to more of like the debonair type sound of Deeper Than Rapping, some yacht cruising, and this hotel type suaveness, cigar type music within the tone. It's just some good type appeals for that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the product of this particular album here, or this mixtape here, as far as those fares going to happen. I'm not sure if I talked about I'm Like That on here, but I'll go ahead and talk about this one again. If I did, I'll just scrap this part. But I'm Like That is like a vintage kind of 2000s loud pack kind of get here. Just some exotic kind of venue. He definitely has like a smoke loud kind of noisy get crunk. I would definitely feel like here is quick, but it slams. I think I pretty much did talk about this one just within the fare behind it. This one of those type ones that goes pretty much with like 6 in the morning, curtain call, some of those type of appeals, just some night type glitz. So I'm just going to keep this segment here, but if I did, I'll just scrap this part. But basically another nice one within that pitch of some of that type fare would be For the Hood. It's like a snazzy kind of night venue hop to kind of get within that tone, just some vintage kind of late 2000s blitzing. I would definitely feel like, and this feels like a Trilla era leftover to kind of get within that tone. This is just like some flashy outs. Definitely some of that typical type flash and pizzazz. Feels just like a song like This Is the Life off of Trilla, one of those type of ones. Billionaire in like a less glitzy type sense. Feels like Billionaire, even though For the Hood is more of a glitzy type song than Billionaire particularly kind of is. It's just some of that particular type of appeal to something that feels like it was produced by like the Runners or Justice League, one of those type ones, Drummer Boy, some of those type pitches, just within the appeal behind it. Just feels ripped out of late 2007, mid 2008 as far as those fares can happen. Just real Trilla left over within those pitches. Good type glitz and glamour. Real nice one. Has a pretty good hook on here as well. So that's the pitch behind this particular product. I think now I've pretty much talked about every single song on here as far as those fares can happen just within the fare behind it. For the most part, I can't think of too many other ones that I haven't talked about. But this mixtape gets a 10 out of 10. The social score I will probably give like a 9.75, 2 out of 10, because I definitely feel like the quality of this project is pretty severe. Definitely one of Rick Ross's best in terms of the quality behind it. It's just the fact that these songs are more of appetizers and just they're over before they really begin within the pitch bond. A lot of these are pretty damn good. They compete with some of Rick Ross's best around that time. Some of his hit singles from Trilla and Port of Miami. This is up there with some of those. Definitely has some great hooks and overall night glitz and pizzazz. Some of that Miami fried type flavor like Rick Ross's early albums. Some good type appeals and just overall the budget, songwriting, and production is pretty excellent on here. The ideas are great and fresh as far as those pitch can happen. So it just has a lot of appeal and glamour. It's just kind of within the pitch that they're just snappy and just you don't get the full extent of what these songs could have been. That's the only real natch to it. So I just say 9.75. Social score is definitely pretty ambient. Just going in between like the moments, like some in between day type fare, just Tuesday type music, just Tuesday afternoons, and just Hustler's Makeshift, just some songs for like some sunny afternoons between like probably I would say even 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just after the lunch break, but just kind of between like amidst like this somewhat standard day grind, but just kind of getting more towards the evening shift as things start to turn out towards more night type fare. A little bit of makeshift in there, a little bit of night glitz, definitely just the aspect of day and night, just with like some summer lavishness, some hotel type music in the in between, kind of relative sense, some good ladies type songs for some of that type fare. I would even say Spotlight Remix has some of that hotel type glamour, just kind of in between some of those type moments, kind of get to some of that type display of just more debonair typeness, kind of the entry type traces of that. So it just has some good pizzazz. In terms of the future, like Rick Ross has been kind of quiet since 2023. He dropped like a collaboration album with Meek Mill, which is a pretty good pitch. I'm going to get to some more of these. Rick Ross has plenty more projects. There's some ones I have on my mind as far as those pitches can have, but we're going to get to those. But yeah, this is an underappreciated classic that's not super commonly talked about. For the most part, the knowledge about this product even being known about nowadays is very uncommon. So it's just one pitch. I want to get this one reviewed just to remember what Rick Ross is up to just months after Trill, which was kind of a quiet spell for him as far as this pitch can happen.